At this moment, Luffy had been sent flying to a strange island by Kuma. He realized that he was still alive. But Luffy didn't know where this place was. Suddenly, a wild boar appeared behind him. It wanted to eat Luffy. But he didn't care about it. Luffy discovered that he still had Rayleigh's Vivre card. This made him very happy, because he could return to find his crewmates. So, Luffy immediately started running. He remembered the Straw Hats' defeat at Sabaody, which caused his crewmates to be separated by Kuma. So, Luffy realized that he was too weak. Accidentally, Luffy crashed into a rock wall. He immediately smashed the rock wall with a single punch. This scared the wild boar. While Luffy was starving, suddenly, he saw the wild boar. And so, it became Luffy's meal. After eating his fill, Luffy continued to explore and found a lot of mushrooms. So, he ate all the mushrooms there. At this moment, a patrol team on the island was making their rounds. Suddenly, they discovered that Luffy was covered in mushrooms. They were surprised, because he had eaten a parasitic mushroom, and this type of mushroom would drain his life force. So, they decided to take Luffy back to the village, which made the women there curious. It turned out they thought Luffy was a woman from the outside world. So, they pulled the mushrooms off his body, and they burned Luffy, to help him get rid of the mushroom roots, which made him pass out. Then, the women took Luffy to bathe. Suddenly, they discovered there was still a mushroom left on his body. When they were about to pull it out, Elder Nyan suddenly appeared. She immediately realized that Luffy was a man, which shocked everyone, because it was the first time they had ever seen a man. It turned out this island was called Amazon Lily, also known as the Island of Women. All the inhabitants of this island were women, and they were also powerful warriors. At this moment, Luffy was imprisoned. When he woke up, everyone was very curious. They viewed Luffy as a rare creature, because they had never seen a man before. Luffy remembered that he had to return to find his crewmates. Suddenly, Luffy saw that this woman had taken his straw hat. So, Luffy stretched out his arm to take it back. This surprised them, because the man's arm could stretch out. They even discovered that there was a glowing treasure on the man's body. It dazzled them. So, Margaret returned Luffy's clothes, but he discovered that she had embroidered flowers on his clothes. This shocked Luffy. He immediately shouted, "I'm a man." Unexpectedly, they aimed their bows at Luffy, because they believed that men were fierce and ungrateful creatures. It turned out that this place had a law banning men. This surprised Luffy, because he realized he was on an island of women. They needed to eliminate Luffy before their queen returned. Otherwise, Margaret's group would be punished, because they had brought a man here. So, they attacked him. They thought he was dead. Unexpectedly, Luffy broke through the roof and ran away. At this moment, Luffy realized they were very strong, and he was knocked to the ground. But, Luffy still tried to escape. So, all the women on the island chased after him. At this moment, he was surrounded. But, Luffy realized that his Vivre card was missing. So, he grabbed Margaret and ran away. After that, Luffy jumped off a cliff. This frightened her. So, Luffy took her into the forest. At this moment, Margaret pulled out a knife to threaten Luffy. But, he only wanted to find his Vivre card. It turned out that she was holding it. This made Luffy very happy. And Luffy told her that he needed to find his crewmates. So, this Vivre card was very important to him. When she learned that Luffy was a pirate, she was surprised, because their queen was also a pirate. Margaret told Luffy that her queen was a very powerful pirate named Boa Hancock. At this moment, the warriors on the island realized that their queen was about to return. Meanwhile, Luffy wanted to leave this place quickly. So, he asked Margaret to remove the embroidered flowers from his clothes, because he was afraid his crewmates would laugh at him. After that, Margaret removed the embroidered flowers for him. So, Luffy ran off using both hands to help him grow stronger quickly. But, he suddenly remembered that he didn't have a ship. Margaret said that this place was the Calm Belt, and there were many giant sea kings around here. So, no one dared to come to this place. Since the queen's ship was pulled by two giant sea serpents, they weren't attacked by the sea kings. This disappointed Luffy, but he decided to build a raft to leave. Unexpectedly, the raft broke apart, causing Luffy to fall into the sea. So, Margaret immediately dived in to save him. Thanks to that, Luffy was still alive. Meanwhile, Margaret was hesitant, but she still saw Luffy as an enemy. So, she kept attacking Luffy. At this moment, Luffy realized that their arrows were very powerful, because they could break through walls. He didn't understand why ordinary arrows were so strong. Margaret said that these arrows had haki. But, Luffy still didn't know what haki was. Suddenly, other warriors arrived, so, they continued chasing Luffy. Outside the island, Boa Hancock's ship is facing off against the Marines. The Marines blamed Boa Hancock for making them wait too long, causing them to be attacked by a Sea King. It turned out that earlier, a Sea King had attacked the Marines' ship, which terrified them, because this Sea King was enormous. But, the Vice Admiral jumped into the Sea King's mouth, and he defeated it. This made the Marines very happy. It turned out that he was Vice Admiral Momonga, and he had come here to meet Boa Hancock. She was one of the 7 warlords of the sea. At this moment, he told them that Ace had been captured and was about to be publicly executed. So, the world government had gathered all the 7 warlords of the sea for it. If Boa Hancock didn't obey, her title as a warlord would be revoked, and she would become an enemy of the world government. At this moment, Boa Hancock began to step forward. Momonga immediately warned everyone to be cautious. Even though they had prepared, they were still captivated by Boa Hancock's beauty. Meanwhile, Luffy was still being chased. He felt that these girls were as scary as Nami. So, Luffy jumped onto a tree to hide. At this moment, Luffy was climbing the mountain. But, he was still being attacked by them, causing Luffy to fall. Meanwhile, Boa Hancock and her 2 sisters had appeared. She declared that she wanted all the goods on their ship. Unexpectedly, the Marines immediately handed over all their treasure to her. This left Momonga helpless. He announced that Ace would be executed in 1 week. But, the Whitebeard pirates would also take action to rescue Ace. So, Marine headquarters was preparing its full force to fight Whitebeard. However, Boa Hancock still didn't want to obey the world government. Suddenly, she jumped onto the Marines' ship. Immediately, she enchanted the Marines, because she was too beautiful. Unexpectedly, they were instantly turned to stone by her. Fortunately, Momonga stabbed his own hand to resist her charm. So, Boa Hancock decided to return to her kingdom. But, Momonga said he would still wait for her answer. At this moment, the people on the island were overjoyed, because their queen had returned. Even the women were mesmerized by her beauty. But, they were still hiding the truth about Luffy from her. This made Hancock feel suspicious, because she didn't see her guards. One of the women lied, saying they were chasing a monkey. Meanwhile, Luffy had fallen into the water. Luckily, a fish dragged him away. At this moment, Elder Nyan arrived to talk to Hancock. She informed her that the Marines was still waiting outside, and their kingdom was protected by the title of 7 warlords of the sea, which helped keep the kingdom peaceful. If Hancock didn't obey the world government, Amazon Lily would be considered a pirate kingdom, and they would be attacked. Elder Nyan even used her fortune-telling skills, which made Hancock furious. She immediately scolded Nyan. Even though Nyan was the former queen of Amazon Lily, Hancock still threw her out of the castle. At this moment, Hancock wanted to take a bath. So, the servants announced it to the entire kingdom, causing everyone to stop what they were doing and leave, because this was a strictly forbidden time to enter the castle. At this moment, a young girl didn't understand why everyone had to stay away when the queen bathed. So, Ran explained to her, it was because of the curse of the Gorgon monster. Anyone who looked into the monster's eyes would be turned to stone. But Hancock and her sisters had defeated the monster, which caused them to be cursed. Anyone who saw their backs would be turned to stone. This surprised the young girl. At this moment, Hancock entered the bath. Meanwhile, Luffy had escaped from the fish. But, he was immediately bitten by a group of snakes. So, he ran up the mountain. At this moment, Luffy escaped from the snakes, and he climbed to the top of the castle. But, he still didn't know how to return to Sabaody. So, he decided to borrow a ship from the most powerful person here. And he jumped down into the castle. Unexpectedly, the castle roof collapsed, causing Luffy to fall into the bathhouse. The guards outside realized something had happened in the bathhouse. At this moment, Luffy thought he was drowning. But, the water here was very shallow. Suddenly, he saw Boa Hancock's back. making Luffy feel that this mark was very familiar. This made Hancock worried. Her two sisters ran inside. They didn't understand why there was a man here. When they found out that Luffy had seen Hancock's back, they were shocked. So, they were determined to kill Luffy. Hancock immediately used her devil fruit power. Luffy misunderstood, thinking it was Foxy's slowdown ability. But, he realized his body was still normal. She tried again, but, her ability still had no effect on Luffy, which surprised them. Hancock didn't understand why he wasn't affected by her charm. Taking advantage of the situation, Luffy ran away. So, Hancock attacked him, causing Luffy to fall. He was immediately surrounded, but Luffy kept running. At this moment, everyone in the kingdom was searching for him. Luffy was constantly attacked by Margaret's group. So, he kept jumping onto rooftops to escape. But, Luffy saw a piece of meat. He stopped to take it. By chance, Elder Nyan recognized him. She realized he was Straw Hat Luffy, with a 300 million bounty. So, she stopped Luffy, causing him to get captured. At this moment, Luffy was tied up in the middle of the arena. Margaret realized he was going to be executed. Hancock started interrogating Luffy, but he simply asked Hancock for a ship, so he could leave this place. This made everyone angry, because they didn't believe him. But, Margaret felt that Luffy was a good person. So, she decided to stand up for him, because she believed he wasn't lying. This surprised everyone. Boa Hancock didn't understand why Margaret was protecting Luffy. It turned out that Margaret felt guilty toward Luffy, because she was the one who brought him into the kingdom. This surprised everyone. The two girls also spoke up to support Margaret. Luffy realized they were good people. Suddenly, Boa Hancock stepped down and approached them. This made Margaret nervous, but Hancock said she would forgive her. Everyone felt their queen was kind and beautiful. Unexpectedly, Hancock turned Margaret's group into stone, shocking everyone. Luffy didn't understand what had happened to them. So, he told Hancock to turn them back to normal. Suddenly, she summoned a black panther. It was revealed to be the queen's executioner. She planned to have it eat Luffy. But, Luffy didn't care. He only wanted her to return Margaret's group to normal. Suddenly, the Black Panther attacked him. But, Luffy defeated it with a single punch, astonishing everyone, because Luffy was incredibly strong. And he didn't even use haki. Then, Luffy scolded the women around him, because they laughed and joked, even though their own comrades had been turned to stone. At this moment, Hancock continued to charm Luffy. She confidently stated that no matter what she did, she would be forgiven, because she was too beautiful. But, Luffy remained angry. This shocked Hancock. She didn't understand why Luffy wasn't enchanted by her beauty. So, she just wanted him to disappear. Hancock ordered her two sisters to execute him. Unexpectedly, they transformed into snakes. Luffy realized they had devil fruit powers. The women in the audience were excited, because they were the two strongest warriors in the kingdom. Sonya and Marigold were amused. Suddenly, Luffy told them to wait a moment. Everyone thought Luffy was scared. But, he only wanted to move Margaret's group off the battlefield, because he was afraid they would break. This surprised everyone. Then, Luffy got ready to fight. He asked, "I just have to defeat these two, right?" Which made everyone laugh, because they all underestimated Luffy. They thought he was crazy. Below the arena were sharp, spiked pillars. When the fight began, Marigold immediately attacked him, but Luffy dodged them all. So, she sprayed poison at Luffy. However, Luffy still moved very quickly, and he immediately closed in to attack Marigold. Unexpectedly, Luffy's attack had no effect on her. She even hit Luffy very hard. He didn't understand why he, being made of rubber, still felt pain. Suddenly, he was caught by Sonya. She immediately used her tail to tighten around Luffy's body. Luffy felt that they had strength similar to Sentomaru. Sonya realized that Luffy didn't know how to use haki. She could even predict his attacks, and she immediately threw Luffy to the ground. Luckily, he managed to break free. Luffy continued attacking Sonya, but she easily dodged all of them. Suddenly, Marigold attacked him, causing Luffy to fall near Margaret. But he tried to dodge, making Luffy fall onto sharp iron spikes. Luckily, Luffy managed to stretch his limbs to stop himself. This disappointed everyone. Boa Hancock scolded him for being all talk. But Luffy returned to the arena and told her to shut up, shocking Hancock. So, she immediately ordered Sonia and Marigold to kill Luffy. Suddenly, Sonia grabbed Margaret's statue and played with it. This made Luffy worried. Sonia said she would smash it. So, Luffy immediately rushed forward to take it back. But he was knocked down and caught by Marigold. Luffy said that Margaret greatly admired her queen. However, Sonia didn't care, because everyone on this island admired them. As she was about to smash Margaret's statue, unexpectedly, Luffy awakened Supreme King Haki. This shocked everyone. Many people in the audience fainted instantly. Sonia and Marigold also released Luffy. He immediately ran to check on Margaret. Luckily, she was still fine. Everyone realized that it was Supreme King Haki. Only 1 in a million people could use it. Sonia and Marigold realized he was similar to their sister, and that he had the qualities of a king. This made Hancock curious. She didn't know who Luffy was. But Sonia and Marigold noticed that he still couldn't control it. Meanwhile, Luffy decided to fight them seriously, which surprised them. Hancock told her 2 sisters not to fear him, because he still couldn't control Haki. But Luffy wanted to take Margaret to a safe place first. However, they didn't care. Sonia immediately attacked Margaret, but Luffy used his body to block the attack for her, and he said that Margaret had nothing to do with this fight. So, Hancock agreed to let him take Margaret away. After Luffy brought Margaret to safety, he immediately returned to the battle against Sonia and Marigold. They continuously used poison to attack Luffy, making it hard for him to breathe, because he was surrounded by toxic gas. This left Luffy dizzy. Taking advantage of this, Sonia and Marigold kept attacking him, while Luffy was gradually losing consciousness. He couldn't land a hit on them. They said that even though he possessed powerful Haki, it was useless if he couldn't control it. Then, Marigold struck him, sending him flying out of the arena. Luckily, Luffy regained consciousness. He grabbed onto the wall and climbed up. And Luffy came up with an idea. He jumped high into the air to blow away all their poison, cleansing the air in the arena. This surprised everyone. Suddenly, Luffy used gear too, causing his body to emit steam. But Sonia was confident that she could still predict his attacks. Unexpectedly, Luffy moved incredibly fast, making it impossible for Sonia to keep up with his speed. So, she decided to use her technique. 8-headed serpent. Her hair transformed into snakes. She continuously attacked Luffy, but he dodged swiftly. So, Sonia couldn't keep up with him. Luffy then jumped up, grabbed Sonia's neck and slammed her to the ground. Marigold saw her sister get taken down. She immediately attacked Luffy, and Marigold believed that his attacks would have no effect on her. Unexpectedly, Luffy's attack was too powerful, knocking her out of the arena. Meanwhile, Hancock was feeling frustrated. She reminded Sonia and Marigold that there was no more time to play around. So, they decided to use their ultimate technique to finish off Luffy. Unexpectedly, Marigold's body caught on fire. As they attacked Luffy together, he countered with a flurry of punches, blocking their assault. Accidentally, Sonia fell onto Marigold, causing her body to ignite in flames. Unexpectedly, Luffy had tied their tails together, preventing them from separating. Luckily, Sonia managed to grab onto the wall, so she didn't fall out of the arena. But Sonia's back was burning, revealing the mark on her back, which made Hancock worried. However, Luffy jumped onto her back to cover the mark and hide it for them. This shocked Boa Hancock. Sonia thought he was attacking her from behind, but Marigold said, "He's protecting us." It turned out that Luffy realized the mark on her back was a secret they didn't want anyone to see. This surprised Hancock, so she ordered everyone to leave the arena. Otherwise, they would be turned to stone. Terrified, everyone ran away. Meanwhile, Hancock recalled the past of the 3 sisters, which filled her with sorrow. While Sonia didn't understand why Luffy was protecting them, Elder Nyan also felt that Luffy was a strange man, and she realized that Hancock could no longer run from her past. At that moment, Luffy noticed that no one else was around, so he jumped off Sonia's back. Luffy thought the next person he would fight was Hancock, but she said there was no need to fight anymore. So, Luffy told Hancock to undo the petrification of Margaret's group, which surprised Hancock. Thus, She agreed. She was even willing to give Luffy a ship to leave. But he could only choose either to save Margaret or take the ship. It turned out Hancock wanted to reveal his true nature. Unexpectedly, he still chose to save Margaret's group. This shocked the three Hancock sisters. Elder Nyan couldn't understand why a strong man like Luffy would still be willing to bow his head and beg for help. So, Hancock decided to undo the petrification on Margaret's group. At that moment, everyone outside was worried. They didn't know what was happening inside. Suddenly, Margaret's group stepped out, which made everyone overjoyed. But Margaret's group had no idea what had happened, because when she woke up, she saw Luffy smiling at her. And then, the queen took Luffy to the castle, which surprised everyone. At that moment, Luffy thought they would give him something to eat, which made him very excited. Suddenly, Sonia thanked him for protecting them. Hancock told him to come inside. He thought it was for food. Unexpectedly, Hancock removed her top in front of Luffy, and she showed him the slave mark on her back. She asked Luffy if he had ever seen this mark before. It turned out Luffy thought it looked similar to the sun tattoo on Hachi's forehead. But he didn't know what it actually meant. So, Elder Nyan told her to tell Luffy the truth. She realized that Luffy was the one with a 300 million belly bounty, and that he had punched a celestial dragon a few days ago at Sabaody. This shocked the three Hancock sisters, because he dared to attack a celestial dragon. But Luffy simply said that the celestial dragon was a horrible person. Suddenly, Hancock started crying, because she never thought there was someone brave enough to hit a celestial dragon like Luffy. So, she decided to tell Luffy everything. Hancock explained that the mark on her back was the slave brand of the celestial dragons, which surprised Luffy. It turned out the three Hancock sisters were once slaves of the world nobles. When Hancock was 12 years old, she went out to sea with others. She was confident that she was already a warrior. But the three Hancock sisters were kidnapped. From that moment on, they became slaves of the celestial dragons. Sonia felt deep pain, because she didn't want to remember those memories. However, Hancock continued to tell Luffy the story. One day, a man climbed over the red line and infiltrated Mary Joie's. That man was Fisher Tiger, the captain of the Fishman pirates. He was the one who freed all the slaves. He helped the three Hancock sisters escape. After that, Fisher Tiger formed the Sun Pirates, and the Fishmen erased the celestial dragon's slave mark, replacing it with their sun symbol. So, Luffy finally understood why Hachi had that sun mark. However, when Hancock was a slave, she was forced by the celestial dragons to eat the love fruit. And her two younger sisters ate the snake fruit. So, they could become entertainment for the celestial dragons. That's why Hancock saw it as the worst past for the three of them. She started crying. She never wanted to be a slave again. Elder Nyan was happy, because Hancock was finally expressing her true feelings. It turned out Elder Nyan was the one who took care of the three sisters when they returned. But Hancock never cared about her, which made Elder Nyan furious. At that moment, Hancock asked Luffy, "Do you despise a former slave like me?" But Luffy simply said he only hated the celestial dragons. This made Hancock start to fall for Luffy, and she was willing to grant him any request, which made Luffy very happy. Hancock looked at him, feeling a strange sensation. Suddenly, Luffy got hungry. So, Hancock told her two sisters to prepare a feast for him. It turned out to be a welcome party for the return of the Kuja pirates. This made Luffy very happy, because today, he could eat as much as he wanted. At this moment, Elder Nyan felt that Hancock seemed strange. She didn't think Hancock would trust a man like this. By evening, Luffy was having a great time, because the food here was delicious. But everyone was worried. They didn't understand why there was a man here. Yet, they were very curious about Luffy's body, because his body could stretch. However, Rand thought this was the queen's plan. She wanted to let Luffy eat to his fill to make it easier to assassinate him. So, they decided to assassinate Luffy. Suddenly, he stood up. They thought Luffy had realized their plan. Unexpectedly, Luffy asked why they weren't singing. This surprised everyone. So, Luffy started singing. This made everyone very happy. They found Luffy really interesting, and he danced funny dances, making everyone laugh continuously. After that, Luffy continued eating. Suddenly, everyone pulled on his skin, preventing Luffy from eating. At this moment, many women were lining up, waiting for a chance to touch Luffy. This made him uncomfortable. So, Luffy quickly ran away. It turned out that Margaret had helped him, and she thanked Luffy because he had saved her. Meanwhile, Boa Hancock's two younger sisters felt that she was acting strange. She didn't even want to eat or sleep. So, they thought Hancock was still grieving over her past. Suddenly, she fainted. This worried everyone. Meanwhile, Luffy had escaped to Elder Nyan's place because he was being chased by the village women. At that moment, Elder Nyan was reading the newspaper. She told Luffy that Boa Hancock was one of the 7 warlords of the sea. This surprised him. So, he realized that Hancock was very strong. Because the first time she became a pirate, she had a bounty of 80 million berries. Later, she was invited by the world government to become a warlord of the sea, and Elder Nyan told Luffy an important piece of news. The Whitebeard pirates were about to have a big battle with Marine headquarters. Because Ace, one of Whitebeard's commanders, had been captured, and Ace was going to be publicly executed. This shocked Luffy. Margaret saw Luffy trembling. Suddenly, Luffy shouted, "Ace is my brother." This immediately surprised Elder Nyan. Luffy asked if there was any way to save Ace. But, Elder Nyan said the only way was for Whitebeard to win. Only then would Ace have a chance to survive. However, Ace was scheduled to be executed in 1 week. And right now, he was imprisoned in Impel Down. If they took a marine ship, it would only take 4 days to get there. Because Eni's lobby, Impel Down, and Marineford were built connected to a massive whirlpool. Only marine ships could pass through the gates. But, regular pirate ships would be swept away and sunk. At this moment, Luffy didn't know what to do. Suddenly, he took out Ace's Vivre card. Elder Nyan explained that this piece of paper was linked to its owner's life, and it could point the way to them. It turned out that Ace had given his Vivre card to Luffy in Arabasta. Luffy knew that Ace wouldn't like him coming to rescue him. But, Luffy decided that he had to save Ace, and he would temporarily stop searching for his crew. Even though Elder Nyan warned that the place was extremely dangerous, Luffy was determined to rescue Ace. So, she told Luffy to go to Impel Down before Ace was transferred to Marineford. Otherwise, Luffy would have to face the 3 admirals and the 7 warlords of the sea. They were the strongest forces of the Marines. Elder Nyan told Luffy to persuade Boa Hancock. If she agreed, she could help Luffy board a marine ship. Suddenly, they received an announcement. Boa Hancock was suffering from a strange illness. Meanwhile, Hancock was feeling extremely weak. This made her 2 younger sisters worried. She thought she was going to die. At this moment, Luffy and Elder Nyan arrived. But, Elder Nyan told Luffy to wait, so she could check Hancock's condition first. Even the doctor didn't know what illness Hancock had. But, Elder Nyan realized it, and when she mentioned Luffy's name, Hancock's pain intensified. That's when Elder Nyan understood her condition, because the previous queens had suffered from the same illness. Then, she told Hancock that Luffy was here, and he needed her help with something. Unexpectedly, Hancock immediately stood up to meet Luffy. This shocked everyone. Elder Nyan realized her guess was correct, because Luffy had melted Hancock's frozen heart. Then, she went outside to meet Luffy. This made Luffy very happy. Meanwhile, everyone was watching them. At that moment, Luffy told her that Ace was his brother, and he wanted to rescue Ace. Luffy asked her to take him to Impel Down. But, her 2 younger sisters disagreed, because they didn't want Hancock to remember her painful past. Hancock realized that Luffy wanted her to accept the world government's summons. Unexpectedly, she immediately agreed. This shocked everyone. Elder Nyan said that Hancock had fallen in love. While Hancock saw Luffy smiling, it made her happy. She realized she couldn't refuse Luffy. But, she didn't understand why. Elder Nyan told Hancock that is love. If she couldn't be with the one she loved, she would suffer greatly. And the previous queens had experienced the same thing. It caused them great pain and even led to their deaths. However, by agreeing to go with Luffy, he had unknowingly saved both Hancock and her kingdom. Because by accepting the world government's summons, Hancock would not lose her title as a warlord of the sea. Then, Hancock contacted Momonga. This surprised him, because she had agreed to the summons. But, Hancock had one condition. At this moment, Everyone was saying goodbye to Luffy. Because he was preparing to leave with Hancock. Luffy promised that next time, he would introduce them to his crewmates. This made them very excited. Suddenly, Hancock arrived. She immediately kicked away the small animals blocking her path, because she didn't like them. But, when she saw Luffy, Hancock became shy. Everyone reminded Luffy to address Hancock as Queen. But, she told him he could just call her by her name. This made everyone mesmerized by Hancock's beauty. Then, Luffy said his farewells and left. Margaret recalled the moments Luffy spent there. This made her feel regretful. So, she wished to see Luffy again. While she was worried, she didn't know if Luffy would be safe on the marine ship. But, Elder Nyan said that she had already made a plan with Hancock. At this moment, Hancock met Momonga. It turned out her request was to go to Impel Down first. So, he agreed, but only she was allowed to go there. Thus, Hancock bid farewell to her pirate crew, and she boarded the marine ship. Suddenly, Momonga heard Hancock's stomach growling from hunger. So, he teased her about it. It turned out that Luffy was clinging to Hancock under her cloak. At this moment, Momonga asked her to undo the petrification of his subordinates. But, Luffy suddenly sneezed. This made Momonga start to feel suspicious. Because Hancock was acting strangely today. Unexpectedly, Hancock told him he could check her body if he wanted. This made Momonga nervous, because he would be turned to stone by her. So, he decided to trust Hancock. After that, Hancock undid the petrification for the marine soldiers, and they began heading toward Impel Down. Meanwhile, Sengoku received news that Hancock had accepted the summons. This reassured him, because now 6 warlords of the sea would be present. However, the last one, Jinbei, was still imprisoned in Impel Down, because he refused to take part in the war. Suddenly, Sengoku heard news. Garp had arrived at Impel Down. This surprised him. However, Sengoku received another report. The Whitebeard pirates had begun to make their move. Many marine patrol squads were destroyed. This made Sengoku furious. Meanwhile, Garp had entered Impel Down to meet Ace. While Luffy was dreaming, he saw the moment Kuma attacked his crewmates, making them disappear. When Luffy woke up, Hancock realized he had a nightmare. She didn't know how to cheer him up. So, Hancock imagined herself comforting Luffy, and they kissed. This made Hancock feel embarrassed. Time rewinds to a few days ago. Nami was blown away to a sky island. This surprised the old man there. When Nami woke up, she was shocked. So, she immediately hit the old man. Nami didn't know where this place was, but she wanted to leave immediately, because her crewmates were waiting for her. Nami kept throwing things at the old man. This scared him. Suddenly, Nami became silent. This confused the old man. He didn't know what Nami had been through. Then, he cooked food for Nami. She found the food very delicious. At this moment, the old man noticed that Nami was still sad. So, he performed the wind knots trick for her. But, the wind was too strong, making Nami fall. So, she immediately punched him. When Nami was about to leave, a huge storm was raging outside. Nami realized that a tornado was approaching. So, she immediately warned the old man. But, he already knew. This made Nami angry, because he was too calm. Then, Hades went outside. This made Nami worried. So, she decided to combine her Kleem attack with wind knots to disperse the storm. Unexpectedly, Nami created a very strong wind, and she succeeded. This surprised Nami. At this moment, Hades returned. He was surprised that Nami could use wind knots. Suddenly, Nami realized this island was floating in the sky. Hades said that this was a sky island called Weatheria, and the storm was actually one of their experiments. This shocked Nami. Meanwhile, on a frozen island, 2 villagers accidentally discovered a large figure. So, they immediately attacked him. It turned out he was Franky. But, their attack had no effect on him. This surprised the boy. Suddenly, Franky felt very cold. He didn't know where he was. So, they told Franky. This island was called Mechanical Island and was also known as Future Country. But, he was freezing. So, they quickly took Franky to town. At that moment, the doctors were examining Franky's body. This surprised them, because he generated energy using cola. But, they didn't have any cola here. When Franky's treatment was finished, the boy was surprised. because Franky had become more polite. It turned out the doctors had replaced his cola with tea. This disappointed the boy, because Franky was really cool before. And on this island, there was a secret laboratory belonging to Dr. Vegapunk. Meanwhile, on Luffy's side, Hancock was scolding the Marine soldiers, because she needed 100 servings of food for a single meal. If they didn't prepare enough, she would turn them to stone. Hancock imagined herself feeding Luffy. This made her very happy. But in reality, Hancock was just sitting in a corner watching Luffy. She didn't even need to eat, she felt full just by looking at him. Suddenly, 2 Marine soldiers peeked into the room. So, Hancock turned them to stone. This terrified the other Marine soldiers. Meanwhile, Hancock was still shyly watching Luffy. But, Luffy was worried about Ace. At this moment, Chopper was dreaming of reuniting with everyone. This made him very happy. Suddenly, he was woken up by giant birds. This shocked Chopper. He ended up becoming a toy for the birds. And Chopper realized he was on a strange island. By accident, the birds dropped Chopper down below. Fortunately, he landed in a bush. At this moment, Chopper didn't know where he was. This made him worried, because he didn't know where everyone else was. Suddenly, he remembered that he still had a Vivre card. It could help him find his crewmates. But first, Chopper needed to find something to eat. Suddenly, he was knocked unconscious by a native warrior. When Chopper woke up, he saw that he was about to become food for the natives. This shocked him, and they thought Chopper was a weasel. But, he told them he was a reindeer. This made them feel strange. Because Chopper could talk. Suddenly, the giant birds attacked the village. Taking this opportunity, Chopper jumped out of the boiling pot. This made Chopper worried. He didn't know where this place was. Meanwhile, on Sanji's side, he was still being chased by the queers. This made Sanji miss Nami and Robin very much. It turned out that a few hours ago, Sanji had been sent flying to this island by Kuma, and he was helped by a girl. This made Sanji very happy. He thought she was a beautiful girl. This made her embarrassed and run away. But, she had forgotten her handkerchief. So, Sanji went to look for her. He found the island very beautiful. Like paradise. This made Sanji hesitate about whether to return to find his crewmates. But, he decided to find the girl first. And Sanji found her house. When he returned the handkerchief, suddenly, she asked Sanji if he liked dresses. Sanji thought she was going to wear a dress for him to see. This made him excited, but Sanji was shocked, because the person standing in front of him was a man. This made Sanji despair and run away. But outside, many men in dresses surrounded Sanji, and they forced Sanji to wear a dress. This scared him, and he ran away. It turned out this place was the Kamabakka kingdom. Meanwhile, on Luffy's side, many Marines had been turned to stone, because they dared to peek into the room. While Luffy was worried, he didn't know when they would arrive at Impel Down. But, he still needed to eat first. Suddenly, Hancock asked Luffy about his crewmates. So, Luffy started naming each one. Hancock discovered that Luffy's crew had 2 women. This shocked her, and she immediately imagined them as her rivals. In a snowy land, a little girl saw Robin. Robin didn't know where she was. The girl told her, this place was Tequila Wolf, a nation in the East Blue. After that, the little girl took Robin home. But, there were many soldiers here. When people saw Robin, they were surprised. But, they did not welcome her, because they were afraid of being discovered by the soldiers. However, the little girl said she would take care of Robin. After that, Soren prepared food for Robin. At this moment, Soren was very curious about the outside world, because she had never left this place. Suddenly, the work bell rang. So, Soren had to go to work, while Robin wanted to return to Luffy. In the morning, Robin saw that Soren had returned. It turned out their task was to build a giant bridge, to connect many islands together. At this moment, Soren learned that Robin had traveled to many islands. This excited her. So, Soren showed Robin the drawings she made from her imagination. After that, Robin told Soren about her adventures. Suddenly, the others also came, and they all listened to Robin's stories together. But, someone reported to the soldiers. So, they rushed inside to search for Robin. When they went up to the attic, Robin hid on the rooftop. This made Soren worried. Luckily, they did not find Robin. But, they saw Soren's drawings. So, The soldier destroyed them to force Soren to reveal Robin's location. Although she was very sad, Soren still refused to speak. This made the soldiers angry. So, they decided to capture everyone. Suddenly, Robin began attacking the soldiers outside. This scared them, but Robin wanted to protect Soren. So, she decided to let the soldiers capture her. After that, Robin met the prison chief. He said the workers here, they were either criminals or citizens abandoned by the world government. And this bridge had been under construction for 700 years. So, he forced Robin to work as well. Meanwhile, Usopp, he had gotten lost on a strange island. This made him anxious, because he was all alone. Usopp didn't know how to leave this island. Suddenly, a giant insect appeared. It started chasing Usopp. Fortunately, he was saved. The man introduced himself as Heracles. However, all the plants here were attacking Usopp. He told Usopp, this place was called Boen Archipelago. Meanwhile, Luffy was still eating, while Hancock was jealous. She imagined Luffy choosing Nami and Robin over her. This made her heartbroken. So, she was determined not to lose. On Kurigana Island, Kurana deeply resented Kuma, because he had sent her to this dark island. This made her furious. Suddenly, Kurana heard a loud noise in the forest. So, she flew over to check. She hoped someone cute had arrived to keep her from being lonely. Unexpectedly, it was Zoro. This shocked Kurana. She realized he was a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. So, Kurana decided to leave him behind. However, in the following days, Kurana took care of Zoro. At that moment, Zoro recalled his defeat. This made him wake up. Suddenly, Zoro saw Kurana. He recognized her as Moria's subordinate. Zoro asked where his swords were. It turned out that Kurana had kept them. When Zoro tried to take his swords back, Kurana used her ghosts to attack him, making him incredibly negative. This delighted Kurana. When Zoro woke up, he was wrapped in bandages all over like a stuffed animal. This made Zoro furious. But, he couldn't fight back against Kurana, because she always made him negative. However, Zoro only wanted to leave. This confused Kurana, because she didn't want to be alone here. So, she kept stopping Zoro, making him feel helpless. Meanwhile, in a land of poverty, a group of cultists was performing a ritual to summon Satan. Suddenly, Brook fell right into their gathering. This shocked everyone. They thought they had successfully summoned Satan. Brook had no idea where he was. But, he wanted to return to Luffy as soon as possible. Suddenly, Brook noticed a girl among them. He asked, "May I see your panties?" So, the men in the group immediately showed Brook their own underwear. Meanwhile, Luffy had eaten his fill. Suddenly, the Marines outside heard a strange noise from the room. So, Hancock quickly pushed the plates away, and ordered them to increase the food portions fivefold. This shocked the Marines. At this moment, Luffy only had 6 days left to save Ace. Meanwhile, the Marine forces had gathered at Marineford. Even the 7 warlords of the sea had arrived, preparing for the battle against Whitebeard. Meanwhile, Garp had visited Ace. Ace told Garp to kill him. So, Garp scolded Ace, saying that even if Ace died, it wouldn't stop Whitebeard's war. This made Ace break into tears. That's the end of today's video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support Oni-chan in future videos. Thank you for watching. Love you all.